Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this late Monday afternoon, early Monday evening, all depending on what time you consider the afternoon ending and the evening beginning, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hey there, Austin. Glad you're here. Make sure you give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. My main topic today is going to be what extreme backlash. And to be honest with you, it's kind of taken me by surprise, but I'll talk about that coming up here in a couple of minutes. But first, I want to tell you that I had two wrestling shows this weekend. Saturday night, I was at OSWA in Cornelia, Georgia. The address there was 205 Commerce Parkway, and Luke Da Silva walked out the new corporate champion. And I mentioned last week that Marcus Adams was going to put out an open challenge. He did, and it was answered by Curtis Coleman, and it was a fantastic show. Good evening to you, Keveron, and anybody and everybody could look great in Clemson gear. For some reason, Keveron, things just look better in orange, and hopefully one day, buddy, everybody will figure that out. Every time you post on Facebook, you always look great in your Clemson orange. I love the purple too. Purple and orange, the Clemson purple and the Clemson orange is a great combination. The Florida orange, the Texas orange, and the Florida orange are just hideous. Tennessee orange is okay, but it's not Clemson orange. And Clemson purple, you just can't beat it. Curtis Coleman answered the open challenge that Marcus Adams issued, and they were the main event. Fantastic show. I'm not sure when the next OSWA show will be, but I'll let you know if I do find out when it will be. And then Sunday afternoon, I was at 305 Cherry Street for Scrappy Championship Wrestling. And I know their next show is coming up on August 24th. Scrappy runs once every 2 months. They ran in February, April, of course, now it's June, so the next show is coming up on Sunday, August 24th. And from what I understand, it's going to be a fantastic show. But yesterday's show was amazing. The main event was Caleb Crocker versus Teo, and it was a time limit draw for the SCW middleweight championship. So two great shows this weekend. Saturday, OSWA. Sunday, SCW, which stands for Scrappy Championship Wrestling. And then one more thing before I get to my extreme backlash conversation. And hopefully, since I have Austin on here who is a wrestling fan, I will get some feedback about it. And Austin, both shows were fantastic. But first, I want to talk about Money in the Bank, which comes up Saturday. It's going to take place at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. There's actually two WWE shows coming up Saturday. Pretty much going to be right across the street from each other. Of course, Inglewood is a suburb of Los Angeles, but at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, Saturday afternoon, they're going to have Worlds Collide, which is a WWE AAA show, but I have not seen any announcements on what matches they're going to have. But I can tell you this, if you like the cruiserweight, lucha libre, high-flying style wrestling, you need to watch this show, and it's going to be free on YouTube. You can't beat that. But Saturday night, Intuit Dome, Inglewood, California. Only 4 matches announced, and that's probably all they're going to have because WWE has shown us that outside of Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and SummerSlam and Survivor Series. 4 to 5 matches is generally what they do. Plus, you're going to have the men's Money in the Bank match, which will be a good 40 to 45 minutes. You're going to have the women's Money in the Bank match, which will be a good 30 minutes. So just those two matches with the entrances and the videos leading up to it is going to be an hour and a half. And most of their premium live events outside of the big four don't go but about 2.5 hours. They might add one more match. We'll have to wait and see. But so far, the men's Money in the Bank match, we've got LA Knight, Andrade, Penta, Solo Sikoa, Seth Rollins, and one more spot. We know there's 6 men and 6 women, so one more spot. That will probably be decided on Raw tonight. But right now we have LA Knight, Andrade, Penta, Solo Sikoa, and Seth Rollins. For the women's Money in the Bank match, we have Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Roxanne Perez, Julia, Naomi, and one more spot. And then for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, we have Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch. Now, so far, the first couple times they've wrestled, Lyra Valkyria has made Becky Lynch look really good. Lyra is a fantastic wrestler. But this time we have a added stipulation, which in my personal opinion tells you what's going to happen before it gets here, but I could be wrong. But if Lyra Valkyria wins, Becky Lynch cannot challenge for the women's IC title again as long as Lyra Valkyria has the belt. If Becky Lynch wins, Lyra Valkyria has to raise her hand in victorious fashion. And then we have Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus Logan Paul and John Cena. And honestly, I don't really know which match will be the main event. Generally, they open with the women's Money in the Bank match, and then they close with the men's. But I could easily see Cody and Jay versus Logan and Cena. I could see that being the main event. So I'm not sure which match will be the main event. My guess is it'll be the tag team match, but I could be wrong. But those 4 matches so far, we might see one more get added. I'm not sure. And really, it's kind of hard right now to pick a winner for either ladder match because you don't know who that 6th person is going to be for the men or the women. But on to my main topic, which is also wrestling related. That's Extreme Backlash. And what I mean by that is not the premium live event called Backlash, changing its name to Extreme Backlash, which I believe at one time was called that. This is something totally different in the wrestling world, and that is WWE letting go of R-Truth. Now, if you follow any kind of wrestling website on social media, you've seen this. It's been posted all weekend. I'm not exactly sure if it's already happened or going to happen, but they pretty much told R-Truth that when his contract runs out, which is coming up very soon, if not already happened, they're not going to renew it. They've also already told Carlito that when his contract runs out in 2 weeks, they're not going to re-sign him. They've also told Sarah Logan, who has been recently using the TV name of Valhalla, that she will not be retained. And I'm glad to have you back, Prehistoric Cooley. But R-Truth, probably from what I've seen, has the most backing of any wrestler ever, and I've never seen as many tweets and quotes and Facebook posts from different wrestlers or former wrestlers or announcers or managers whatever the case may be, backing R-Truth. Everybody's upset about it because R-Truth is a legend. You can't act as dumb as he has for 15 years and be able to do it consistently and be entertaining with it like R-Truth. The man's a legend. Now, granted, he's 53 years old. He's pretty much a glorified jobber. You know, if you see Truth on TV, he's going to act stupid and get beat. But it's funny. And he's a national treasure. And I thought he was going to be there as long as he wanted to be there. Now, Sarah Logan, nobody's going to care. Carlito, nobody will care. But with R-Truth, there's been so much backlash, they may end up having to re-sign him, because it wouldn't surprise me at all if Raw comes on tonight and SmackDown come Friday, if you don't hear the crowd just unanimously chant R-Truth, 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 so much that it pretty much boycotts and holds up the show, because you're not going to make 20,000 people stop chanting. You just can't do it. One or two you can, but they're not going to kick out the entire arena. But fans and workers alike are upset about it, and I get it. He's a national treasure. But it just goes to show, you know, the cost of business. And all this happened because, and I know people are mad at Triple H, but this is not a Triple H decision. This is the owners over him. This was not his call. But all this happened because Vince McMahon got in all that trouble with the whole, what was her name, Janelle Grant case. And Stephanie pretty much went to her dad and said, Dad, you've got to take yourself off TV and do something, because you're giving yourself a bad look and you're giving this company a bad look. And people are not going to watch this knowing what you're doing behind the scenes. You've got to do something. So Vince got mad that his daughter pretty much told him to kick rocks. So he, in turn, goes and sells the majority of the company to TKO. TKO is not a wrestling company. They don't give a darn what happens on TV. They don't care. They're not a wrestling company. They're a company. So just like every other company, now they're looking to make the most money they can make. And if you've gone to a WWE show recently, in the past 5 years, you can look at ticket prices and see what they're doing. I can recall going to Monday Night Raw, and me and a friend of mine went, and I think our tickets were like $40 a piece. Now, if you go to Monday Night Raw, it's like $200. And I can recall going to Royal Rumble when it came to Atlanta, and I think we paid like $80. Now, if you go to a premium live event and you set up the nosebleed section, you're going to pay at least $300. Why? Because TKO is trying to make all the money they can. And they've noticed that WWE, their fans are hardcore. And just like folks that buy cigarettes thinking they've got to have them, these hardcore wrestling fans, when Raw or SmackDown comes to their city or state, they feel like they have to go. So if you triple prices, most of them are going to say, I've still got to go, I've still got to go. So you're helping TKO make more and more money. And now TKO is pretty much watching the product, and they're realizing who gets used and who don't. And they're pretty much looking at it saying, you know what? If we watch Raw for a month and we don't see somebody every week, we don't need them. We're not going to pay somebody to only be on TV once every 3 or 4 weeks. Or we're not going to pay somebody to where if you are on TV, everybody pretty much knows what's going to happen. And with R-Truth on TV, you know what's going to happen. He's going to go out there, get the microphone, say something stupid, and get beat in 3 minutes. But nobody can be as entertaining doing that as R-Truth was. And there's been so much backlash behind it that it wouldn't surprise me at all if he ends up getting brought back. But it all stems back to Vince McMahon. You know, the sad part is Vince McMahon, he did sell the majority of the company, but it's been about 2 years now since the whole Janelle Grant thing came out. And there's now some people saying that since Vince McMahon still owns the third most stock in the company, that in a few more months you might see Vince McMahon come back. Not saying you will, but he does still own some of the company, and he does still own some stock in the company. So if he was completely leaving the company altogether, why would he maintain some ownership and some stock? It doesn't make sense. If you're going to leave altogether, just leave altogether. So there are some folks that's now saying, with all this crap going on with TKO firing everybody, that you might see Vince now come back, and a lot of the diehards will forgive him because they want him back, because the product's now suffering. Because, yeah, when Vince was there, they always fired about 30 people every year right after WrestleMania, but you always let go of the ones like Sarah Logan that you just didn't need. But Vince would always keep somebody like Santino Marella or R-Truth because they're entertaining, and wrestling is about entertainment. And now you take away R-Truth, and there's really nobody of significance in the company that's going to consistently entertain you and make you laugh like R-Truth. That was his job. That's what he did. So it'd be interesting to stick around and see if he does end up being brought back. But R-Truth and Sarah Logan and Carlito have all been told that when their contracts run out, they will not be renewed. So they're not terminated. It's just WWE decides to not renew their contract, and there is a difference between being terminated and your contract not being renewed. So now a lot of the wrestlers that have a contract that's up in the next 6 months or a year better go ahead and start looking at renewing that contract right away, because if not, when it gets close, TKO might be telling you they don't need you. Any thoughts on any of this? Please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What country's capital is growing the fastest? Ireland. Every day, it's doubling. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them.